Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tooele Happy Hour podcast starring Jared Anderson and David Weiss. Today's guest, we have the chair of the Tooele City Council. Justin, will you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Brady. I'm currently on the Tooele City Council. Like David just said, I'm the chairman of the Tooele City Council right now. I'm in my first term, and I'm up for re-election in November.
How does it work when you get the chairmanship? Do they vote you in, or
Yeah.
all the other city councilmen go,
all of them say you're the lucky one that gets to do it. Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, we vote on which groups that we'll be part of, and I was the lucky one who got to be the chair. So I don't know if I'd consider it lucky. I feel like I get to take the brunt of all of the issues sometimes.
and you're kind of the end point of contact before every meeting goes off, so everything that'd be
it can be difficult, but it's been a good learning experience for me. So
that's good. And you're just finishing up with your first term on the city council.
Correct.
And how do you feel about it?
I feel pretty good. I feel like I've been able to complete a lot of the things that I wanted to see done during my first term. I've learned that government, it moves very slowly. I think it's designed to work that way. I didn't realize that until I was on the city council, but I feel like I've done a lot, and I'm happy to share some of those things if you guys have specific questions.
Yeah, let's do it. I saw, first I want to kick this off. Now, I saw when I was carousing your page, and this took me back, the 4th of July, someone stole I guess there were golf carts that were being used for the city councilman to attend in the parade, and someone stole them. Did they find out who stole them?
They haven't found out. As far as I've heard, they haven't found out who stole them. They did find them, and they were quite a ways away from where they were stolen from. They found them on Bates Canyon Road.
Really?
On a dirt road is what I was told.
So they went joyriding.
They went joyriding. I'm amazed they made it that far. A golf cart.
Well, they're pretty rugged. They're
good battery systems, I guess.
They're meant to be driven by drunk guys with sticks. But no, I'm glad they found them. I think you're going to have to put an APB out at a middle school if that's what went down. Pretty sure. But anyways, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I
didn't even know that, but it's kind of funny. But
I saw it come across the board, and I was like, oh. Because I went to the Grantsville parade this year.
Yeah.
And as much as I love the 4th of July, I'm not a fan of parades because standing out in the 9,000 degree heat.
Getting candy thrown at you.
Yeah.
So you were saying that you were able to get something you wanted to accomplished in your first go around. What was that success like?
So one thing I really wanted to see done was to have more trails in our community. There really wasn't any trails. And so this summer, at the end of this summer, maybe beginning of fall, we'll have a trail that's opening. It's on England Acres. It's going to run, there's a ditch, Devil's Ditch is what it's been called before. So it'll run from England Acres Park up to the corner of Drew Bay Road. Be a nice paved trail that'll be right there. And then we have plans to add additional trails in the future. We're working with the county and anyone else who's interested in putting trails in neighborhoods. So you have to work with developers to get things like that done, and
obviously
require trails. So
it's nice if you can, future developments have that written in so that the developers absorb that cost.
Exactly. And that's what we've done is we have an active transportation plan now that does require developers in specific areas to put in trail systems. So
are you going to have them paint green stripes on roads?
So that I had nothing to do with that. I know that's a hot topic, especially on the 411, right? But that was a grant that the city received, and I believe it was a UTA grant.
That was a state grant, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is I have never seen a bicycle on that green stripe.
I've rode my bike there before. But
have you?
Just to say someone did?
Just to say someone did.
You better take a picture of it next time.
Yeah, so they fixed those roads. They did an overlay, asphalt overlay, and then they've just put the whole road's not green anymore. They put little bicycle figures.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw it. When they first put it in, took up, a quarter of the road. And I was like, well, that's, but it was it was a signaling thing. It wasn't going to do much because that isn't a high pressure bicycle traffic area where, it did meet up on kind of Main Street, but not really in a place where people would ride their bikes. There's no mass bike parking area after that or any of that. But I understand why the state did it, because the state, would hate to give us back any revenue.
I think it could have been utilized a lot better somewhere else. I'm really big on like standalone trails. I'd like to see more of those, not just painting the road green. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm not opposed to people starting to bike around. I do think that once people start riding a bike on the roads, that they become retarded, and they start darting out in front of people. They demand to be a part of the vehicle traffic until that whole stop sign thing comes into play, and then they ignore it. And I think as long as they can comport themselves on the road like they're, say a motorcycle, everyone gets along. But they want to be this blend between, and I think they're kind of prone to causing incidents like that.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's difficult riding a bike in a city that's not meant to ride bikes in. I mean, it's not like
I'm sure it
we're
is.
a very bike-friendly city here. I get the pucker factor when I ride my bike out there and
I'm sure it
the
is.
traffic area.
I agree with you completely. But anyway, so you're running to get elected again. What are your future plans?
So I want to continue to build on the things that we've been doing. So that's one thing that I've really pushed is trails. I still want to see more trails. Something else is I really push to be a Tree City USA again. I want to see more trees in our parks, and I think that's somewhere we've really neglected over the last couple of years, is just our parks and improving our parks and maintaining them. And I mean, I take my kids to the park and there's not even shade to sit under while they're playing on the playground, So that was something I was happy to get past. Was we're officially a Tree City USA. Now the goal is to get more trees planted, right?
So what does it mean when you become a Tree City USA?
It means that you are taking at least $2 per capita, and the funding is going toward trees. It could be planting trees, maintaining trees. It's not an additional tax. It just comes from our budget. We're saying $2 per person is going to go towards trees.
Okay.
Who provides the saplings and who plants them?
So the city would have to purchase them. I think Darwin Cook, he's the parks director. He has said at the end of the year that Tooele Valley Nursery will sell at a discount a lot of the trees that they haven't sold throughout the year. A lot of the trees that they got in the previous years have been planted at the golf course. The Wigwam is an area that they planted more trees. I'd like to see it more in like the park right over here where Spencer's Field's at.
General public spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wigwam is an asset for the city and the county when it comes to Girl Scout stuff, but it's not going to help out the general populace.
Yeah, they're trying to revitalize it so you or I could go rent a pavilion and a camping ground and take your family up there. So Darwin's come a long way with that.
That'd
He
be
has a
good.
vision for
Where
it.
do you?
Is it the Wigwam? Maybe it's not called the Wigwam. It's the one at the base of the Wigwam. I think is at the top of Settlement Canyon, right?
No, the Wigwam's right at the base.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of then. Okay.
It's the right one. It was Boy Scouts,
Yeah.
and then it was Girl Scouts, so now it belongs to the city.
The city owns it, yes.
Okay, that'd be good to see that as public use. I would like to see the city say, let's go ahead and build a... You can go two ways with it. You can say, let's build a renting camping ground, but we already have that up Settlement Canyon. But what about a day use kind of up in the woods part?
Yeah, and the plan is to have a pavilion up there where you can go do that day use. So I think it'll be a good thing for the community. The hard part is getting it out to the community to know the options that we have in Tooele, right?
Yeah, that's true. You got to figure out how to advertise that.
Yeah.
Well, you have that newsletter that you send out with the bill.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
They put a lot of information in that. Tooele City has a Facebook page. I recommend everyone follows that. They post on social media the things going on in the community. And then yeah, we try to do the best we can, just word of mouth to let people know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once people start renting it and telling each other, I think you'd see it take off.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you could go all sorts of directions with that. Do you know what the rental fees are, what it takes to rent it?
It's affordable. We try to keep all of our fees affordable. You can rent the Dow James building and the youth center and things like that. And we just adjusted the fees on those. We're not trying to make money. It's not a revenue source. But we adjusted them, and I don't know exactly how much it is, but it's definitely affordable. Maybe $40, $50 tops for the whole day to rent a pavilion. Might even be less than that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Is it a negative sum game? After?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a negative sum game. That's how government works, right? Like the golf course, swimming pool, pavilions, we're not making money off of those. It's a service that we're providing for the community. So that is where a lot of taxpayer dollars go, is to fund things like that. Things that run in the negative and the red.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's the only other option is to move it into the free market and have someone own it and rent it out and let them absorb the costs of maintaining it and everything else. Then the prices would obviously go up until it matched where it was being used 30 to 40% of the time, so it recouped its costs. I mean, there's that big compromise there.
Yeah, the city, we're a business in a sense, right? But we don't run like a business. We're not trying to profit off of the residents of the community. We're trying to provide services that make our community a better place. And I think we do a pretty good job at that.
So far, Tooele's done quite well on their budget.
Yeah, I would say that we've done very well.
I don't think you don't need to be sheepish about that. Tooele's had an honest showing on their budget. Well, you ready to start taking a
of course.
question from the audience? Glenn asks, we're going to ask you about raising property taxes again. Trying to keep police pay equal to Sandy City is silly, unrealistic, and terrible. We don't want to be Sandy, except having to pay to go up to the canyon, and everyone in your party just to use a pavilion will reduce the number of people who can or will use it. I'd like to see local government stop spending and raising taxes. Let's ask about raising of property taxes. What are we looking at with that?
So last night we actually had a discussion about raising the property taxes 4.75%, I believe. That's about $24 on a house that is $400,000 for the whole year. So about $2 a month is what we're talking. Taxes are always one of the most difficult things to decide when you have to do that. This last time, 2 years ago, we raised taxes about, I think it was 17% or so, 20% tops. But that was when we raised it to give police officers a raise because we were losing a ton of police officers to other agencies. And we knew that because we did these studies that showed us that they're leaving to these other entities that are paying a lot more. I don't know if Sandy was one of them. Salt Lake City kind of drives the market and they set the price for police officers. But I couldn't tell you if we're matching Sandy's. I know you're saying you don't want to be Sandy, but we have to be competitive with other markets to retain officers. And we definitely weren't the highest paying city for police officers. I can guarantee that. We tried to increase the starting wage to retain them, but also give raises to those that have been here to retain them as well. So I think we're still kind of in the middle of the market, and that's another thing people don't always understand is not all of the property taxes are going just to pay police officers, right? We gave all employees a cost of living adjustment. With inflation being so high, we felt like we had to. The health insurance costs went up like 27% this year, which was a huge cost to the city. And as our city grows, we have to provide more services, more staff, and so it's difficult to not raise property taxes. I hate to see it just as much as anyone else, but at this point, we haven't found a way around it. Like I said earlier, we're not in the business of making money off of our citizens. We're doing what we can just to provide these basic services and infrastructure.
Okay, let me lay out a few questions and scenarios. What is the city planning for further inflation, because I don't think inflation's done. The city, here's what you bump against the inflation and the raising of the interest rates is we're going to start having people lose jobs. We're going to have deflation in the workforce. It's kind of even the plan of the Fed. They've come out and said they plan on doing that. So that's going to happen. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of houses come on the market. Then the market's going to dump. Is the city planning for that? Because you can't raise property taxes every year and then end up milking turnips. What are the plans? Are the cities starting to looking at plans on how to thin out the budget even more?
Absolutely. The mayor, she presents a tentative budget to the council, right? And this year she didn't have any new job positions that she was asking for, and she asked her department heads to keep a flat budget, keep the budget right where it's at, and they did that. So the increase that we had was primarily to pay for that cost of living. Even bidding out on projects like infrastructure projects, we're seeing a significant increase in the cost to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Inflation, right? That's exactly what's happening. So this property tax this year is primarily to pay for the inflation that we're seeing. And to answer your question a little bit more in depth, though, we are planning. We always are looking out years in advance. And I think that's why it's so difficult is we don't want to raise taxes too much that we're pricing people out of their houses. And that's always a concern we get during the public comment periods is people can't afford to pay their mortgage if taxes go too high.
Well, and you make it unfriendly for people to want to buy a house.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
your school system collapses around you.
Yeah.
I noticed the other day I heard Lucky's lost their liquor license. And so now we're getting hit from external government sources attacking our businesses.
Okay, hold on. Lucky's lost their beer license?
Yes.
I saw that headline, but that was I think I just read that today. I didn't even see
How
the
would they have
article.
lost it?
They send in like secret agents, like these little kids, and they pay them or something. and they did this to a friend of mine's restaurant.
Got a 14-year-old.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They do these kind of things.
Employed by the man.
So
But they're very aggressive about it too, because they won't take no for an answer. I mean, these little agents aren't just playing around; they're going in there to score a goal. And I went into Lucky's the other day. I tried to buy Heineken, and I only had my CAC card, and they wouldn't give it to me. And so I know it's not like they're trying to funnel beer to underage kids.
I'm sure Lucky's is also going to become aggressive. They probably won't lose their beer license permanently. They probably have to do a reapplication, and we don't need to drag Justin into a complicated debate about the DABC, which is
and that's all the state, the city.
Favorite organization.
But these are our city businesses that we
Right.
and we do need to stand up for them as
Yeah.
citizens in government too.
I wonder what a city could do to the DABC to counter that. Because it seems like right now, the highway patrol, if you're on 36, they are raking in the money. I haven't drove down 36 one morning in the last 2 months and not seen highway patrol pulling people over. So now that could be that the highway patrol notices that there is maybe a rise in accidents on there, or even just a rise in speeding, But it seems like the highway patrol is paying a lot of attention to 36 just right over the overpass.
I did hear there was a rise in accidents. I don't think it was right by where the overpass is. It was more in Erda at those stoplights that are there.
Slow them down.
Yeah,
right
slow 'em down
outside of
sooner,
Tooele.
so.
Slow them down right there in Lake Point, and you eliminate the accidents. And those were some deadly ones there in Stansbury. I think it was twice last year. We had people die on 36 in Stansbury, which maybe they need to look at something else. All right. Okay.
So his one question, he talks about going up the canyon. The park I'm talking about is you don't have to pay to go up the canyon to get to that. That's why I don't know if I have the right name. I keep saying the Wigwam, but I feel like that's...
The Wigwam, okay,
I know where you're
you've got
talking
Settlement Canyon, and then you got the creek bed where they built houses.
Yes.
And then you've got just to the north of that, you've got that little bit older house, and then there's a dirt road that kind of cuts
that's
past.
the one.
That's the
So
wigwam.
you don't have to pay to get up to the canyon like Mr. Turnbow is suggesting.
You don't have to pay to go up to, because the wigwam's
go up
not
Settlement
necessarily
Canyon.
up the canyon.
Right.
The wigwam's on the foothill from, I think they used to call it Little Mountain or something, but
Yeah.
it's on the foothill of that.
Yeah. The county operates the booth at Settlement and Middle
Yeah.
Canyon. It's not Tooele City.
I will say, I can give you a citizen suggestion. The one that the city does operate, maybe you should have a donations account QR code for Venmo or PayPal or something like that. People will donate to these organizations and these projects if they know it's going specifically to that, especially parks and recs. I mean, we've got a pretty charitable population. Utah is one of the most charitable audiences on the in the Republic. We donate, and I think we should probably put donation QR codes out so people can put in their 2
I think
cents.
that's a great idea. We do receive donations like trees. The Rotary Club's donated trees in the past, and so we do see donations, not always monetary donations,
Right.
but trees and things like that.
No, I'd be good. I'm going to have to go check out the wigwam, see what they've done. I haven't been up there in years. I used to go up there every year for the county jamboree that we'd have out here when I was a scout. And then when the Girl Scouts took over, I would go up there and help of the preparation for their, I don't know what Girl Scouts do, but they would do something up there. And I'd like to see, I wonder if the structure's still standing, you know. I've ate many a raw hamburgers up there. I mean, it's been great.
So Glenn has another question here that popped up. Also ask him about the buffalo statues. How much did they cost? Why? Are we trying to be a trendy place like Jackson Hole? And I recently passed by those statues and I'm like, oh, that's new. Kind of hipster-like. Good question. I like it, Glenn.
That's a great question. So Tooele City contributed $20,000 towards those buffaloes. That, I believe it came out of the art tax, the PAR tax, not the art tax, the PAR tax to pay for that. And the idea behind it is there's going to be 10 buffaloes, so $2,000 a piece. And then there's sponsors who sponsor the whatever artwork they want to see on that buffalo, and they pay that $2,000. So with this first initial sponsorship, it's paid for itself, right? And then every year they'll keep contributing and paying the $2,000, and then that money's going towards the fund to put towards downtown, the Downtown Alliance group. What we're really trying to do is help those small businesses that are downtown and try to drive foot traffic there. So I wouldn't say we're trying to be trendy like Jackson Hole. Go to Jackson Hole, but their property taxes are through the roof because they're so trendy like that. We're not trying to be like them. We're trying to get people to go downtown and help the small businesses down there.
So Tooele City did an upfront cost, and then that cost is recouped by people kind of
sponsors,
taking ownership of that and decorating it.
That's
Correct.
pretty cool. So,
Okay.
So if we wanted to put like a Tooele Happy Hour logo on a buffalo, we pay you a donation, and bang, it goes on one of those
It
buffaloes.
sounds like $2,000 gets you a buffalo.
For the year, yeah. And then each year, I don't know if they'll repaint them every year or if you just
Oh,
It
that's
probably
awesome.
keep
depends
paying
on
$2,000
whoever does
and
it.
keep the buffalo. So
Here's another question. This is the downtown one. I've heard about this a few times. So we're trying to, and I agree, we should bolster for those businesses. We'd like to get downtown built up, but how are we going to merge that with the traffic that exists?
that's always the challenge, right? Is businesses bring in traffic. One thing we did on Main Street, we added some parking that is right
there in
on
front of
Main
Burgess.
Street. Yeah, right in front of Burgess to provide people more parking. Traffic on Main Street's difficult because it's the main artery, right?
Would there be
way
any
through
way,
town.
say, to build up Coleman, and then maybe Coleman could come across and cut a route that matches maybe the railroad or something, so that you build
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
kind of a Tooele belt route.
Yeah.
And then you can bolster downtown. You can even lower the speed limit to bolster downtown, because right now you can't feasibly lower it where it's a main artery, and that's a
Right. We've discussed that if we should lower the speed limit, work with UDOT to lower the speed limit. We don't see as much traffic on the south end of Tooele, though, right? The majority of traffic is State Road 36 and 1000 North.
when you do see traffic, it's people heading to their job. So you
Correct.
lower the speed limit, you're only punishing
Yeah.
them. And they're not stopping to shop, but you offer them
Yeah.
a substitute
route. Yeah, different route.
Offer them a substitute, and then you can lower the speed limit, build a shopping district. Because I like the idea of a shopping district where hippies gather and hang their gems and wares in windows and sell it. But I think you'll have two competing circumstances if you're going to have shopping district and main artery
That's
for
a
people
fair
to
point.
go to work.
I definitely agree. Yeah, one thing we're trying to do with traffic, not on the south end of town, but on the north end of town, is we're trying to get 2400 North finished. That's the road that it'll end where the temple's being built. So the school district's building the high school. There's a few developers that own land, and then the Church of Jesus Christ bought that property where they're building the temple. So we feel like if we can get that road finished, it will push more traffic off of State Road 36. It would increase traffic on 400 West down in the Overlake area, but it gives up people another way to get around the town, right?
It could, and I agree. Yeah,
We have a pretty big town, and we have a lot of bus stops, right? And I'm wondering, would it be a feasible thing to have like a van going around bus stop to bus stop, bringing pedestrians around the town, and maybe putting sponsorships on the
is there
van?
enough need for that, though?
So
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
UTA already, they do their studies, right? And they've determined that the bus system, the way they had it being utilized, wasn't being utilized the way they wanted it to. So now they have a flex bus. Anyone can go onto the UTA website and get information about it. You basically, it's an Uber that UTA does. You schedule an appointment, they pick you up, and they'll take you anywhere in the city. UTA has told us that that's been highly utilized, way more than other communities. So
I see it all the time, and it's not a scheduled thing. Where Tooele is a spread out area. That's why mass transit really doesn't work in spread. I mean, if a guy come out here and opened a taxi business, he would be out of business next week.
yeah,
Literally, he would drown because it's a spread out area. It's too far. But that flex bus, I've seen that running around, which is a boon for the elderly. I could see if Tooele got in on that and said, hey, we want to subsidize senior citizen cost on that, or however, I could definitely see that.
yeah, could definitely help.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need a huge bus to go do something like that. I was thinking more like a minivan or something.
That's what the UTA, their flex buses aren't big buses. They're like 15 passenger vans or the
It's
20
Ford
passenger.
Econolines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haulers. You see them running around town all the time. Here's another question. What about the city trying to get a good, affordable grocery store like Winco here? Winco is employee owned and would help meet the jobs needs out here. And my tax dollars would go to Salt Lake County. Wait.
I think he meant would not.
Wait till I have to go into Salt Lake County. Oh, I hate this jumping. Also, I hear rumors of a special deal with Walmart. I'd like to hear more information about it. Well, let's talk about Winco. Has Winco come out here and done a study?
I haven't heard of Winco coming out to do a study. So the big development we have right now is on 1000 North. That's behind 7-Eleven and Denny's. A developer owns that, right? The city at one point owned that land. Just a little history on it. The RDA, the redevelopment agency, owned that. They sold it to this developer, and the developer had to decide by a certain date if they were going to develop it or not, and they decided to develop it. So the RDA got to keep the money that we had sold it to them for, and we paid off a bond with that. But the developer is the one reaching out to determine who's going to be in that specific area. They hire different groups, to go find them.
I've heard
businesses.
some stories. We might get a Chili's in there. Of course,
I've heard everything
there's
under
not
the
a
sun thrown out.
teenager on earth right now that isn't like given their. We should call it the Tooele Anon conspiracy about what's going in there, because I hear it all the time. Katie's, my girlfriend's kids, nonstop. Oh, I heard we're going to get a Chili's. I heard we're, but the argument is Tooele, like Walmart tends to service smaller communities, which is why you see Walmarts pop up in these smaller towns. I don't know if Winco does. I'd like to see it if they did, it'd be neat, but I don't know if Winco does. I do know, we're not going to get a Sam's Club or anything like that. We're not big enough.
Right.
And
Yeah, people throw out Sam's Club, Costco.
Yeah.
We're just not big enough. I would love to see them come. I think it would be good to keep more dollars here. I would love to see a Winco, but the city doesn't always go out and look and say, hey, Winco, we want you to come here. It's the developers that do that. This developer, from what I've heard, he's going to lease the building, so he wants parties that are going to lease from him. And
So you might see a rollover in different structures. I'm wondering, and you probably don't know this, what size of structure is he building? Is he separating it into medium-sized storefronts, smaller storefronts? He's doing a mix.
they've given us a concept plan, and there is like a really big strip mall that would be comparable to like West Valley area on 5600, where they have like I think there's a Ross there, or TJ Maxx,
Yeah.
famous footwear. So a big building like that.
So that's a good size
Yep,
structure.
those are your anchor stores, and then you have smaller like restaurants that I've heard some of the names thrown out.
Oh yeah.
So
There's
I really
no-
hope that we get some of those, and then a gas station on the corner, and I think there's one other big building that they would have. Their anchor stores, they call them.
That'd be good. I wonder if they're gonna extend there behind the 7-Eleven and put an entrance there also.
Yeah.
So what's this about? Special deals with Walmart? Glenn, I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit more on that, but is there anything between the city and Walmarts that maybe the public should be aware of?
So nothing that I'm aware of. So I think I've heard this a lot from different residents that Walmart got tax incentives when they decided to come to Tooele. That would have been 20 years ago now that they built that building. I think
That's
it's been
the big one.
The big one, yeah.
The old little one.
I remember the old little one, yeah.
Yeah.
But the big one has been there for quite a while, and if there was any tax incentives, I'm not aware of any. There's agreements that could have been put in place. Currently, the Tooele City Council, since I've been on there, we haven't offered any tax incentive to businesses to come to our community. We don't feel like we need to do that, and it doesn't benefit the taxpayers to try to bring some of those businesses here. I know other entities have done that, like the Romney Group, that's outside of Tooele City, but there was tax incentives that were given to that Romney Group in Tooele County. Actually, I think they're in Grantsville now. I think they
they're
annexed into
technically
Grantsville.
under Grantsville.
So, but yeah, we haven't given any tax incentives to any business since I've been on the city council, 3.5 years.
And do the citizens have the ability to look at a ledger to see what businesses are actually paying towards the city taxes?
No, I don't know the answer to that. Like what each business specifically
Correct.
pays. I know the county has different maps that you can go on and look at. You could probably see the assessed value of a business, and then that's what they're taxed off of. So I think you could figure it out, but I don't think it would like be in plain language and Walmart pays this much in taxes, and I don't think there's anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see more businesses out here for obvious reasons. Businesses are a positive tax base where people are a negative tax base.
Well, I'm
That's
kind
true.
of curious. I know we have a marijuana grower in Tooele. I don't know if it's Tooele City or Tooele County, but it's over there somewhere in the
It's Tooele
depot.
City.
And I would love to know how much they're paying in taxes to the city.
Yeah, so theirs would be strictly property tax because they're not selling anything, right? At their
Yeah, they just
it'd
produce
be
it
property tax. They produce it and sell
there. They
it.
pay it in hemp and
So we lose that
hacky
way.
sacks.
We lose big time as a city.
Not
because we don't get
necessarily.
to tax the product. We just get property tax.
Yeah, sales tax is a big revenue source for Tooele City. So property tax is only, I think it's 20 to 25% of your property tax goes actually to Tooele City. The majority of it goes to the school district, right? That's how they fund
Right.
schools. So sales tax is a huge source of funds for the city. And that was a concern we had is every month we get the sales tax information, and we were seeing a decline in that just because of inflation.
Yeah.
People are holding on to their money a little bit more, and rightfully so. I mean, that's what we all have to do, right? When gas is through the roof and groceries went way
Yeah.
up. And
Has Tooele looked at well, I don't know. What would Tooele be friendly to? What do they call the medical marijuana places?
a dispensary.
Dispensary.
A dispensary.
Yeah.
I believe that's so regulated by the state, right? I think you can only have so many in like a certain area, and it's based off population.
And so it operates like the DABC does, huh?
Yeah, so Tooele City, I don't think has a lot of control over where those dispensaries, is that what they're called?
Dispensary.
It's a hard word to say, yeah. But Tooele
Smoke
City
shacks.
doesn't have a say of where they would be. It's more state run.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you're going to run for re-election now. Why do you want to be re-elected? You did your term, and in fact, you know what? Before we even go there, I want to ask one more question prior to this one. You're about to experience. Actually, I think you probably already did. There was a legislation proposed for term limits for city council members.
Yep.
Can you explain how that went and where you stood on that proposed legislation?
Yeah, so we talked about this last night in our city council meeting. It was a resolution that was, I guess you could say, drafted or presented by Councilman Graff. And to have term limits, the only reason Tooele City could have term limits is because we have a charter. We're the only city in the entire state that has a charter, which allows us to essentially make some of our own rules, which one could be term limits. The state doesn't allow you to have term limits. So he was suggesting that we make a change to the city charter, that the term limit would be 12 years, so 3 consecutive terms, and then you'd have to take a 2-year break, step down if you were in there, and then you could run for a re-election and have 12 more years. And my understanding was that would continue. So 12 years on, 2 years off, 12 on, 2 off. When we talked about that last night, I was pretty vocal about where I stand on that issue. I'm not opposed to term limits by any means. I just don't think they're necessarily needed in a municipal election. And the reason I say that is because our elections have been so close. If you look at the last 2, you've had 2 incumbents that have lost. Dave McCall, he lost re-election 2 years ago, and then he ran and got elected. And then Tony Graff, that's when Tony Graff beat Dave McCall. And then Melody Gochis, she was on the city council last year, 2 years ago, and lost. I did have some concerns with that resolution, 12 years and then 2 years and 12 years. To me, that's not really a term limit, right? You're not limiting the terms at all. You're just saying you have to take a 2-year hiatus. So what we decided to do last night was to form a committee and try to get citizens' input on what they would want to see. And while we're doing that, also find other changes that need to be made in the charter. So
it wasn't denied, but it wasn't passed to go on the ballot. It's just to...
We tabled it.
Okay.
And we tabled it until the end of the year so we can form this committee. The way that would go on the ballot is a supermajority of the council would have to approve it. So 4 council members would have to say, we're going to put it on the ballot for the voters to decide. And I think at some point we'll do that. It can only be done every 2 years because it has to be during a municipal election. So the soonest we could get it on any charter change for term limits would be in 2025.
So what you're saying is it's not up to the council to decide whether or not to impose the term limits. What Mr. Garf is proposing is that Mr. Graff is proposing is that it is voted on by the people on a ballot.
Correct. The city council saying we'll make this. We're going to let the citizens decide if they want to make this change to the charter.
But you're going to have a committee first to go out and get a feel for what they'd like to see the charter to be, the term limit structure to be, and then from there allow it onto the ballot and see where it goes.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you saw Tony's post on 411 about that, but there's really strong opinions both ways about if term limits are needed, what's the right amount for term limits.
You guys are going to get sucked up into people thinking about the Senate and the Congress.
That was my concern that I brought up last night. I think when you say term limits, the first thing I think is the career politicians in Washington, D.C., right? Like Orrin Hatch, who was on there for 40 plus years.
Right.
And that's the challenge. And that's why I say municipal elections, I feel like they're different. My cell phone's posted on the city website. They can see me in the store. I just feel like there's not that degree of separation you see on the federal level.
One argue I would make for it is that gets out ahead of Tooele City growing. Because once it grows, then you start seeing more possibility for segregation between different councilors and their constituents. Right now, where you guys do a general, like you guys represent all of Tooele.
Right.
You don't have a zone. And if Tooele grows to where they start zoning you out, then I think you'll start seeing issues with that. So it would be good to see something like that come down the pike to where you can head off the future. But like you said, right now, I don't think it would make a big change. But I don't think Tooele's done growing.
We're definitely not done growing. All the I can't even think of the word right now. The projections are showing that Tooele City basically will double in size in the next 20 to 25 years. And that's just Tooele City. The county's going to grow just as fast.
I think so.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Justin. Do you think congressmen and senators in federal government should have term limits?
Yes, but I think the only way it would work is if it was across the board. It wouldn't benefit Utah to have term limits, but then Nevada doesn't have term limits, because the way the system's set up right now is you have to be in there a long time to kind of work your way up.
Push us down on seniority.
Yeah.
We could get into national level politics. I think more than term limits. I think senators and congressmen should be paid by their state instead of by the federal government, and that way their state has control over the people they send there, and they can, enforce their will. I imagine New York citizens in AOC's district loves her, but she has done absolutely nothing for her district. It'd be nice if her district or the state of New York could say, come on now.
Right.
I don't want you going out and trying to politicize South Dakota. I want you considering, and it would be nice for us to be able to do the same, and also tie that to the general wealth of the economy.
Yeah.
Because right now us flyover states are not gaining. I saw a study the other day that there are 5 cities that produce 71% of the economic value in the United States. Wow. And that's because...
Are they in California?
Actually, you've got New York, Washington, D.C. is number 1 for obvious reasons. That's where the seat of power is, so all them corrupt. I mean, that place, if it lit on fire, it'd probably be an improvement on the world. Washington, D.C., New York, Miami, I think L.A. or San Francisco was on there, but they produce, because they do that much economic generation, and the rest of us kind of got left behind. The nation doesn't pour money into the rest of us, and the way the world's moving is kids go to college, they become that, and then they move to one of those big cities and take their economic value there, and I'm not blaming them for that, but it's made it to where it's kind of left the flyover areas behind. So we're ignored, or at best we're ignored, at worst we're despised.
Utah's in a good position, though. We do have a lot of large businesses coming to Utah, not necessarily Tooele City, but even Tooele County. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more. We're going to see a lot of manufacturing jobs because of our location with I-80. That's primarily what we're going to see.
Rail.
And the rail,
so. Right there.
But Utah, I think, is in a great position. We always hear that we have low unemployment, and we're bringing a lot of big businesses to where the old prison site is. That will be a huge economic benefit to the state of Utah.
Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you for coming on. This has been good. It's been eye-opening.
Well, before we kick him off, let him give his final pitch, Jared.
Yeah, let's have you give your final speech. I wanted to clear out and say thank you to our listener, all one of you. We knocked it out of the park tonight. But anyways, yeah,
good questions though, Glenn.
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah, and those are good questions. So, lay us out. Why should the people vote for you? And will you be voted back in as chair?
I don't. So every year we decide.
If you win again, they could honestly foist that burden on you again.
They definitely could. Yeah, I'm not opposed to being the chair again, but I think there's other council members who would do a fine job being chair as well. I was just reading his last comment.
Money is gained by creating something people want or need. I wish we did better with manufacturing and not just depending on business coming in because of something like the inlet port bringing jobs in. That's true. We would have to have people want to do entrepreneurship and start a business up. And yeah,
I agree. We'll see a lot of significant manufacturing growth at the industrial depot. That's where we're going to see a lot of growth. And then the RDA does own a piece of land by Tooele Tech south of that. That the RDA and the city are connected, right? We are trying to bring some businesses into that area. We actually did get one, Letner Poma. They create the ski lift equipment that moves people around, so that they're projected to bring in about 300, they say, high-paying jobs. I don't know the exact amount. But
good. It's a touchy economy right now.
It really is.
Look what happened with Carvana or whatever it was. That was a big boon, and then they died.
Yeah, they're still around, but not as big as they were for sure.
Yeah, they're selling off all their car vending machines, trying to get rid. Who's going to buy them?
I would never buy a car from a vending machine.
But I mean,
people were. It's crazy.
They're trying to sell the vending machines.
Right, yeah.
So I guess if you're Jay Leno and you don't want to have the lateral garage, you want to have an up and down garage, and you can take people on your garage tour and hit the button and have the cars go in a circle. But yeah, that's what I mean.
It is.
That company went dead overnight. It was crazy. But we're going to see it. The inland port is going to bring businesses in. And I would love to see it if more Tooele people got an idea and decided to build stuff,
I would love that too.
I mean, right now we've got a lot of excellent small and mid-sized businesses coming out of Tooele. I mean, we've got auto shops. Remember, those are your entrepreneurs in town. Shop at your local shops. If there's a local shop you can meet the needs, meet your needs at, do that. That bolsters them.
I agree 100%. All right. To answer your question, why I think people should reelect me, I think I've done the things that I said I would do, and I've always tried to be transparent with the residents, all the constituents that I represent. One big change that we made before I was on the council, they used to have these work meetings that happened before the big business meeting, the public meeting. They're all public meetings, but it was held in a large conference room upstairs. And I remember going to those when I was campaigning 4 years ago, and it just felt so uncomfortable being in there. It's like I wasn't supposed to be in there. It wasn't inviting to the public. And so we decided as a council to move that down to the area where we have all of our meetings, all of our public meetings. And then we started streaming that it's on YouTube now. It was on Facebook. But that's a big thing. I try to be transparent with the constituents as much as I can. Obviously, there's some things we just can't discuss, like which business is coming here, and people can use that to their advantage, right? So there's certain things that we can't talk about, but anything that I can talk about, I do talk about. So transparency, I think we put Tooele City in a position that financially is in a better position than I feel like we were in 4 years ago. We've seen our overall debt decrease. We paid off that bond, a $4 million bond, and we're continuing in the right direction. We've also helped our police officers, our firefighters, and public safety is a huge concern of mine. I want people to feel safe in our community. And then I'm going to continue to push for better parks and more trees in our parks, and it's those little things that make a big difference. And that's what most citizens don't understand, how many police officers are on duty, but they can see what's going on at their park that's across the street, and they want to be able to take their kids there and have a good time. So if anyone has any questions for me, though, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. My contact information is on the city website since I'm currently in office. You can reach out to me on Facebook, and I'm happy to talk with you in person, on the phone, and answer your questions.
And we put all his information in the show notes. His Facebook. We didn't put his phone number in there, but we can add that in there if he's okay.
It's public information, so I don't...
Just, but reach out to him. Everything else, Justin, thanks for coming on. Wish you the best of luck.
One quick plug, Justin. If a citizen wants to be on these committees, what do they have to do and where do they have to go?
So this particular committee for the charter. I guess state code decides who can be on that or how we find residents to be on that. So we're still trying to figure out who can actually be on that and how we find citizens to be on it. So I would just, like I said, I would watch the Tooele City Facebook page. That's where we post things. Like if there's a planning commission seat open, different boards like this, we're going to post it on there. So follow the Tooele City Facebook page.
Need to tap into the jury pool. You've been elected for committee. People would curse about it. Anyways, but thanks for coming on. We wish you the best. Everything else, yeah.
Thank you.
We had one last question roll in. Thanks for coming on and answering questions. It's Glenn again, our listener of the evening. And yeah, thanks, Glenn. It's been a quiet night on people listening, so not a lot of questions come at us. But
thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks.
And you guys all have a wonderful night.